Now here I am in John, age going on to 7. So we would sleep on the cold concrete floor. This man came and woke us up. He said he was a policeman. That was to be the worst day of my life. He took me into a dark place, and I'm always stuck in that dark place. When he was finished, he says, if I was to tell anyone what happened there that night, he would come back and he will kill my brother and myself. Now here I am in John, age going on to 7. And Doris lived with her husband, and at the time she had 3 children with her. One of the little girls she was about 6, and there was another who was slightly younger. There was also a baby in a crib who was called Poito. Now, my first day at Aunt Doris was okay. Aunt Doris left me. She told me what I had to do and showed me where everything was. And next thing, Aunt Doris went off to work, and I was left to mind baby and the other 2. Now, looking after these children, I had no clue of looking after children because I was the same as they were, but I had to do it because it was my duty. I had to feed little Poito, who was just a little baby, having his bottle. Had to do his bottle. I'm going step by step. And so I then had to do the meals for the other 2 and myself. At least this time we had food to eat. And Doris was off to work. And this was my daily way of life. I am now a child, like I said, a childminder, a mommy, a cook. My specialty, age almost 7, was she loved split peas. So it was split peas. I was a professional split peas and rice cook and cleaner. School hadn't come into the equation. So therefore, I was home alone, babies looking after babies. And it went on and on and on a daily basis. Now, my uncle came occasionally to see us, well, to see me and visit and see what's going on. And I remembered him always giving Aunt Doris an envelope. But, as a child, you don't know what is what's going on. So she had her allowance for myself. But it wasn't enough. When Uncle Sammy came and he was leaving, I was only allowed to walk with him where Aunt Doris can see me and hear me. So he was never able to know what's happening. I always had to tell him, oh, it was lovely, and so on and so on and so forth. And this continued on a daily basis. And one day, to my surprise, my brother turned up. Wow. That was a great day. He turned up and my unit came back. But it wasn't for long. He then had to go off with Aunt Doris. When she went to work, he went off to work. But there were days when we would be together, and we will work together, and we had a really good relationship. He looked after me. My brother is a year older than I am. And he was then my guardian. There was our unit. And Doris had a husband, but she also had a boyfriend who had a shop. And she had coached me that when she was at the back with him in the West Indies, and you have the shop, so you have a little counter. On the counter, there's a serving hatch. And Doris told me to go through the hatch when they were around the back. And she taught me to take the money from the till. And she taught me well. She said, don't take the ones from the top, take it from the middle. And so every time she would leave, we would leave the children, and she was going to Mr. Robert. She said to me to come on in after and go into the shop and take the money from the middle. And this is what I did many, many, many days. So I was also, I'm now including a thief in my resume. So here I am. Not just that, she also made us steal from the neighbors, like the neighbor's chicken. They always roost on the tree. There was a big tree in the yard. And Aunt Doris had a way of getting the stick and poking the chicken. And when they fell, she would wring their neck and put it in the pot and hid it. She would hide it under the bed. And this was Aunt Doris. But at least she stole. We ate. She fed us. But growing up at Aunt Doris was no better than being at Dole. Mind you, let's say it was in a certain extent because she dressed me up a lot. I had many lovely dresses, whereas at Dole I didn't. So, yeah, she treated me a lot better than Dole in respect of clothes and things like that because she never had children. So I was her dolly. But she beat too. She beat a lot. And always smoked. And I remember when she's washing on the hill, just in the yard, she'll be there washing her clothes. And she'll call out to me to light her cigarette. And you had to run quickly to light the cigarette and take it to her. You could not smoke it. Which is a good thing because one thing I never did was smoking. I hated it. So that served its purpose for my purpose in life. Now, Aunt Doris. When my brother was working with her one day, the children were talking about, why aren't you all ever at school? Why aren't you ever at school? And he was explaining to them, and they told my brother, you should be at school, and so on and so forth. So as a young boy, he took this on board and he listened. And he came and we talked and we started making plans. Because there were times when we were at Aunt Doris, when the food dried up, my brother used to have to go and get food for us. So he used to go to the labas to find food. Now, labas is like a dump, when people go and dump the fruits and things like that. And he would bring the food home for us to eat. That's on our bad day with Aunt Doris when there was nothing. Also, there was one of the children, we always used to go to the mom and said that, oh, Aunt Doris said, can you send milk? And, back home you have the condensed milk. So we used to get that, we used to go and collect bottles off the street, you would get a penny back for each bottle, which we would buy cake. We did that at Dole as well. So we were quite good at collecting bottles to buy food on the way, buy sweets or little cakes and so on. So here we are at Doris and Aunt Doris, and things went on and on and on and on. So one day my brother decided, after the girls spoke to him at work, told him about welfare and things like that, we should be going to school. One day Aunt Doris left us together and we marched all the way to Port of Spain. As two little ones, we are going, and we actually found the welfare. And we went and explained to them what was happening. And they then got in touch with our uncle who had taken us there. And he came one day to speak to Aunt Doris about it. So she sent us to school, which was really great. Sent us to school. School started. Wasn't for long, though. It went on for a while, and then Aunt Doris said, yeah, they've been at school. It's all over. They're not going to be bothering me anymore. And the cycle just started back and repeated itself. No school, work. No school, babysit. And this was my childhood. Christmas came. I never once had a present. You saw these children with little things in the neighborhood. Everyone singing their Christmas carols and coming out with the little dolls and things like that. I never once had a little doll in my life. I never was told by Aunt Doris or doll that I'm beautiful. I was never given presents, never given hug. Love was something that no one knew about as a child. We didn't anyway. So life, it just went on and on. Every day the same old, same old, same old. Now, like I said, Aunt Doris was a good thief. Her niece came to stay with us, and it was around the carnival season. And she worked in one of these fast food places. And Aunt Doris sent my brother and I, and said that her niece will get things and we can go to the place where she works and we can have things to bring home. But as two kids, we got wrapped up in the carnival steel band. We followed the carnival procession. We we were having a really, really good time. And at the end of the day, we went back to Aunt Doris with no chicken, nothing. And when you see Aunt Doris beat, she was a good beater too. So Aunt Doris locked my brother in, started beating, beating, beating. But before she got to me, my brother grabbed me and he said, come on, girlie, let's go. And we ran away that very day. And night came. In John John, they were building some government houses. They were blocks of flats. So my brother and I would sleep there during the night. And we prayed, He would say to me, girlie, let's say our prayer so God would not make anything happen to us. So we would sleep on the cold concrete floor. And in the daytime when Aunt Doris left, we would go through the house and get something, change of clothes, whatever. steal things out of the house to keep us throughout the day. And it went on for a few days. Could be longer, but I'll say a few days. But I mean, we slept in this building a few times. Then one night we were sleeping underneath someone's house. So I think what happened was Aunt Doris had reported us missing. Whether she did or not, I don't know. But one night we were asleep under someone's house. Because back home, they have the houses on stilts and the open at the bottom. So we thought we will go there and sleep one night. And as we were asleep, this man came and woke us up and spoke to us. I can't remember what was said, but I remember him saying to my brother to go and get something. And he's a policeman. He said he was a policeman. And he said to my brother to go and fetch or do whatever. And as a child, my brother listened in the dark and he went off to get things. And that night, my faith was sealed. I cannot remember to this day as to whether he had a car or whether we were on foot. I can't remember anything of that sort. That was to be the worst. That was to be the worst day of my life. This person who said he was a policeman, after sending my brother off, he took me into I don't know where it was to this day. He took me into a dark place, and I'm always stuck in that dark place, even though I am grown up with children of my own and I have my family. I am still in that place which I need to get out of. This policeman who was supposed to be protecting us just used me for his own benefit. He helped himself rather than helping my brother and I. Now, I felt like my whole inside was coming away from my body. And when he was finished, he says, if I was to tell anyone what happened there that night, he would come back and he will kill my brother and myself. So I had to live with that. He then took me back to where he picked us up from. And he left me there. And my brother came, and I could not say anything to him, although although I was in pain, I was limping, and I had to lie to my brother. And after that, we had to go back home because he said we should go back to our home. So my brother and I went back and the next day, and I wasn't able to say anything to Aunt Doris or anyone. So I am still haunted by that. Morning came and Aunt Doris didn't ask where we were when she saw us. Not a word. It was just another day. And life continued. During my rape, I moved on too fast. When I came back to Honduras, I remember taking my knickers and hiding it in the fowl coop, behind the fowl coop at the side of the house. Because what am I supposed to do? I wasn't supposed to tell anyone if I put it under a sees it. Mind you, I don't know why, but I hid it because it's something I did and something that I did wrong. So I had to hide my shame of the wrong I did. I don't know. Another event that happened when I was at Aunt Doris was I was changing the baby's nappy. Poito, I fed him and I changed him. When I was finished, he was crying and he was crying. I was crying. The baby was crying. And to the point, I don't know what to do. I just didn't know what to do. And he cried so hard. And I'm there trying with him, and he's still crying. Painful cry. The cry was so painful. And I need to get myself forgiven for that. Um, one of the neighbors, she heard the cries, and it came to the point where she couldn't hear anymore. She came over and she said, "Girlie, what's wrong?" And all I was able to say is, "I changed his diaper, I fed him, and he's still crying." And all she said was, "Jesus Christ." She unpinned that baby, and his poor little body had ballooned. So growing up, you think, can you imagine the pain that little boy was in? No one told me that I had to stick my hand through to feel the pinning before I pinned him. And that was the day I was taught by the neighbor how to put a baby's nappy on. And I've never forgiven myself for that. I also hope that God forgive me because, telling it to my kids eh, and my children saying to me, "Mom, it's not your fault. You're a child." Yes, I know that, but it still hurts me because I did it to someone. It should have never happened. Another time with Aunt Doris again was that Aunt Doris smoked, like I said, and she sent me to buy cigarette one night. She ran out of cigarettes, and because I went to get the cigarette, we walked over a bridge in John John, and it was a wooden bridge. And as I was going, all was well, but on my way back, I fell through one of the boards. I've actually got like a 7, 8 inches long scar on the side of my leg from that night. There were two. One disappeared and one is still there as my reminder. I fell in that hole and I came home to Aunt Doris covered in blood again. And Aunt Doris never looked at me, never looked at my leg. I didn't know that I was supposed to go and clean it up or do anything. And all she was concerned is, have you got my change? And, you know, this is thing that children don't happen to children, but it happened. One day, Uncle Sammy came. It so happened that the welfare were looking at us and keeping up on what was happening, and came and spoke to Aunt Doris. And because things continued, they decided to, plans were being made for my brother and I. And I remember when Uncle Sammy called us together and he said to us that we will be going to for a hearing. This is court hearing or welfare, whatever it was, but it was a hearing. And I remembered when we went to that thing place, and he said to us, they will they will take care of you all. They will ask if you are happy to stay with Aunt Doris. He said, if you all say yes and that you stay, if anything happens, there will be no help for you. So this was the day that it was another journey for us. That day we went to the hearing and they decided to take us, and we went into an orphanage. That's my other shame. No one that knows me know that I grew up in an orphanage. 8 years old by then. I'm in an orphanage now. My brother said we were younger, but I think we were about 8. I was about 8. So I would say 8. We went and we were taken to, at the time it was Belmont Orphanage, but the name has changed now. And I can honestly say that's where my life began. I was then able to live my child life. Um, there were many children, and life was great because I was able to play with kids, went to school for the first time. Monday to Friday, I was able to get up and have breakfast. And like I say, if I was to live my life, I would love it to start from there. Although saying so, they were good and bad, but it was more good than bad. Belmont was wonderful. We were given breakfast. We were given lunch. We were given a snack at between 3:30 to 4 o'clock. Then you were given your supper at night. So life began. That's me, where my childhood began. And I thank God for that, because for my brother, I thank him for listening to what the children were saying to him. And I thank him for his having the sense to say, let us go and do something about it, even though we were children ourselves. So Belmont Orphanage was really good. And this is my next journey, which I'll tell you all about later. Thank you very much for listening. Thanks for taking the time out. Thanks for listening to my story. And I hope you are not going to judge me, because I have judged myself many times. I've punished myself many times. And that even though my past wasn't my fault, I still accuse myself. Thanks for listening. In the next, I'll tell you what happened in Belmont and what life was all about. Thank you for listening again. Take care.